So we're getting lined up and ready to go now. Jack Polito, Demi Chaukis side by side on in their class on the front row, and then Vince Partap right behind them. Of course, like we mentioned, GT4 starts off first, and then both TCR and TCA start all together, but still in different classes. Here they come around the final corner. Whoa, they're almost touching already, getting down to the start-finish line here. Polito, Chaukis, and Partap bring us down. Green flag in the air, and we are underway.
That former Multimatic Motorsports Ford Mustang of Jack Polito has been so dominant here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. He won the last 2 races of 2022. He's dominated so far in 2023. He's won 4 times as the TCR and TCA class sees the green flag here on the front chute, and it's Dean Baker with Justin DiBenedetto. No smoke showing from that red and gray Audi as it looks like one of the TCA class cars has come to a stop here on the front straightaway off of turn number 10, and that's Jonathan Young in the 8 who finished on the podium. Richard Boak is just coming out of the paddock area too. We see him coming onto the front straightaway, so no caution. It's just a local caution right now, but this TCA class car is right on the apex of turn number 10, so that will likely draw a full course caution. But look at Richard Boak. He might want to buy a lottery ticket after this race, because if we go, and we are going full course caution, that gives the driver of the 84 a new lease on life there, as he'll be able to catch the back of the field, loses his starting spot, but the cleanup crew out to push the 8 of Jonathan Young back to the paddock area. For some reason, that car just stopped here on the racetrack as they were coming to green. And now a full course caution. This incident in turn number 10, the GT4 cars are coming around. Polito has checked up. Demi Chaukis has closed the gap on the back bumper of the Ford Mustang. And Vince Partap in there again. The GT4 class cars start about 20 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. Justin DiBenedetto, your leader in the TCR class. And car stopped on the racetrack. Vince Partap, looks like that car stalled as he pulled to the side to get around the push truck.
He's got it running now.
Yeah, that's good news, because the rest of the field is coming.
That's unfortunate for Richard Boak, but like you said, you might want to go buy a lottery ticket now. That caution came out at a very good time for him. I'm not quite sure what happened there. He was way late getting to the grid. And that's your race 1 winner from early on today. So that is big right there. And that he needs to make up as many positions as possible, because remember, he's still somewhat going at it as well in the championship. I believe he may have been 3rd coming in behind DiBenedetto and the number 52 of Dean Baker. So this was going to be a huge hit in the points for him if that was going to stay green, but now he's going to get help himself stay on the lead lap and just restart this race at the tail end of the field. And it'll get him right back up into the swing of things. And also the number 8 of Jonathan Young, he finished 2nd earlier in a great battle for the win with Trevor Hill and Eric Kuntz. And I'm not sure what's gone on there. I don't know if he stalled it coming to the start of the race, but he's going to have to get a push back and maybe get back to the pit lane, or if he can get it going, just slot right back in line.
Yeah, I would think that something broke, because that car has not refired. So if it was merely a stall, it would have likely refired with a push here on the front straightaway. He's off the track. So something is amiss, and now they've called for the flatbed to go from pushing the number 8 car to loading up the number 8 car. So we continue under caution, but again, the clock continues to tick in this 40-minute timed race for the FEL Sports Car Championship Canada Series, and race number 2 on the weekend. Jack Polito, as we mentioned, your leader in the GT4 class, and he has been very, very good here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. He's been good all season long, as a matter of fact, but I was looking over his stats here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. So he won race number 1. Coming into this race, he won all 3 races in the spring. He won twice in the fall race here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park in 2022, and those would have been his first 2 races in that Ford Mustang. So he has started a total of 6 races, and he has won a total of 6 races here in that number 22 Polito Ford Mustang. So, and it does come with a very good pedigree, that car. It comes with a championship, as a matter of fact, in the FEL Sports Car Championship Canada division. So previous championship winner. And now Jack Polito is riding into a championship lead in the GT4 class, nearly insurmountable at this point because he has just been very, very good all season long. And again, out in front of the GT4s. Take nothing away from Demi Chalkas in the 34. She has been very, so this is her first season behind the wheel of that Mercedes AMG, and it's been a very much a learning curve as far as her getting used to this kind of car and this kind of power on this track. She did spend last season doing a lot of testing in a GT4 class car, but for the team and her to mesh, and they've had some horrible luck at times as well. You look at the Grand Prix de Trois-Rivières, they were settled in nicely to a podium position and unfortunately got tangled up with a TCR class car towards the end of that race, and it ended there on early. So the 34 of Demi Chalkas is having a very good 2023 as well. It looks like Justin Di Benedetto, who took the lead off that initial start, is going to be put back behind the 52 of Dean Baker. So Baker comes into this one as your points leader. Justin Di Benedetto was second. Again, had that DNF in race number 1. Did the driver the number 4. Baker finished second behind the 84 of Richard Boak. However, the way the point structure works out, finishing first and second, as long as you keep pace, you're not going to lose a lot of points. So the winner gets 40 points, second place gets 35. And so the difference between the top two was right about 50. So it was, or between the top 3, I should say, was right about 50. So Boak needs to make up a lot in a little amount of time.
He does. Like we said, he's going to have to come from the back of the field to pull this one off as well. And if you're Dean Baker as well with Justin Di Benedetto, if you see that Di Benedetto maybe has a lot more pace in the car and you don't want to fight him to risk anything absolutely major happening, you just sit in second and just let this race play out as it is and take the points there, knowing that you're not going to lose too much to Di Benedetto and sort of go into championship defense mode. As lights are out in the pace car, so it looks like we're going to be going back green this time.
A single file start here in the FEL Sports Car Championship Canada Series. So the pace car is going to wheel in off of turn number 9. So typically lights will go out down the back straightaway here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Pace car is in, now in the hands of Jack Polito. Look at Demi Chalkas tucked right up underneath that Ford Mustang. She's bound and determined not to let Jack Polito get away as we go back to green with 7 minutes completed here in this 40-minute time race.
Already looking a little bit further back, Richard Boak jumped 2 cars already before we even got out of the final corner. As soon as the green flag went, he pounced. And not wasting any time at all is the number 84 in that Audi. Just absolutely going for it. He knows he's got to make up a lot of time, and he's not about to let this one falter away from him right now. But up front, at least in TCR, Justin Benedetto trying to make something happen here on Dean Baker as they negotiate through turn 3. They're right behind Demi Chalkas as well, as Vince Partap going down the order a little bit. Both Gary and Tom Kwok in the 66 and the 55 also passed him coming through the couple of sweeping corners. There comes Vince right now as he makes his way through 5B. He's got Ed Killeen right behind him in the 37, and then comes, I believe that's Quinitrell in the number 86 just behind them, and then Olivier Montour in the 45, the number 80 of Connor Trell, and then I believe now comes Richard Boak. I saw him dive up the inside of, I think that was Trevor Hill coming into Moss Corner there. So
yeah, the 84 is still on the lead lap, so definitely a driver we're going to be keeping an eye on through this race. But Dean Baker has some company in the form of the 4 of Justin Di Benedetto. A little bit of a lockup as the 4 tests those Michelin tires in turn number 10. Justin Di Benedetto giving a little headlight flash to your points leader down the front straightaway, just trying to catch his eye and get Dean Baker off his line in turn number 1. Baker from nearby Bowmanville, Ontario. He would love to win this one in front of a hometown crowd, and he's holding off a hard-charging youngster in Justin Di Benedetto. Remember, back to the spring, race number 1 of the 2023 season, brand new car for Justin Di Benedetto, and he took it right to victory lane in its first outing. So he knows how to find his way to victory lane here, does Justin Di Benedetto. But a track that's in his backyard is Dean Baker, and he's showing why he's able to get around here very quickly in the 52, as now they've managed to catch the back end of the 34 of Demi Chalkas. So the gap has grown at the lead of the GT4. Chalkas is looking in her mirror, and she will see that blue and silver number 52 of Dean Baker down the Andretti straightaway. That's where the GT4s have the extra muscle, though. You watch Demi Chalk is able to flex that almost 550 horsepower. The Mercedes AMG gaps the TCR cars, but this is where they suck back up in the tight and twisties. They're so light and nimble as Baker goes to the inside. Chalkis didn't see him there. Nearly slammed the door across the nose of the Audi, and look, that opens the door for Justin DiBenedetto. Pass for the lead in turn number 1.
I was going to say Baker lost a lot of momentum trying to make that move, and it's almost going to cost him the lead. DiBenedetto not quite clear, though. Baker still got a quarter panel to him as now they head down through turn 2. DiBenedetto, this is a bit of a sketchy one right here. Baker got a little bit loose on the inside, still side by side on the exit of turn 2. Here they come to turn 3. DiBenedetto harder on the brakes, and he's going to take the lead in the TCR category.
Love that great respect between two great drivers, Justin DiBenedetto and Dean Baker, going side by side through turn number 2 and in through part of turn number 3 as well. So DiBenedetto comes out on top and will take over the race lead in the TCR class. Still first overall is Jack Polito in the 22, as Demi Chalk is just ahead of your TCR leader. So Justin DiBenedetto will try and catch that draft, that toe down the Andretti straightaway. And he's got Dean Baker filling his tire marks, and then Ron Tomlinson, who's having another great run in the 48. So Tomlinson finished on the podium in the TCR class in race number 1, sitting in a podium position once again in the 48, as Baker took a quick peek, but couldn't make anything work into turn number 8. It looks like Justin DiBenedetto has this set of corners, and now he's going to try to the inside of turn number 10. He will make it stick to the inside of the 34 of Demi Chalkis, and that puts the 34 in between the leader and second place in TCR.
That was a great move from DiBenedetto. He was able to pull off what Dean Baker could not, and now he's got a bit of a cushion in between himself as he pulls more and more away. Now Baker, now he's going to look to the inside. Nope. Thought about it, going on Demi Chalkis there, got better of it, and now that brings Ron Tomlinson right to the rear bumper of that silver and blue number 52 car. Let's go a little bit further back down the order. Gary Kwok in the 66, just behind them. Tom Kwok in the 55, and then Richard Boak absolutely flying up through the field, up into 8th overall. He's got a bit more to make up. He's actually right on the back of Tom Kwok on the exit of that lap, as they are still going at it. Baker still not able to get around Demi Chalkis, and as you mentioned, Dave, right here, this is where Chalkis will eventually get away. Once they get to the end of this straightaway, that Mercedes AMG will just end up pulling away as they go more and more down the straightaway with a lot more top speed.
You can see Kwok is looming in the background as well in that new Honda, the number 66, brand new to Kwok in the spring race. As a matter of fact, Gary Kwok was racing an Audi here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, and both Kwok's, Gary and Tom, typically have run Hondas in sports car series, variety of different sports car series in Canada. So it was very surprising to see Gary Kwok show up in a Honda, as Dean Baker does finally complete that move to the inside in turn number 10 around the 34 of Demi Chalkis, and it looks like Tomlinson's going to try and stick it to the inside in turn number 1. Will have that spot. And again, that's not a battle for position in class, but it is a battle for position overall. Baker now 3rd overall, as Tomlinson and Demi Chalkis battle for 4th overall. But Tomlinson currently sitting 3rd in the TCR class. But back to the Kwoks, you have Gary Kwok running the 66, showed up in an Audi, and it was very weird to see. It was because he was waiting on this brand new chassis. Finally got it for the Honda Indy Toronto, and unfortunately suffered big damage, making heavy contact with the concrete in that race. Got it fixed up. Grand Prix de Trois-Rivières, sat on pole. So it's just a good, hard day's work to put that car back together and make it fast, but it's quick again here today. Sitting in 6th is the driver of the 66. And you'll watch, he'll come into your screen just at the top. There he is, the white and green Honda Civic of Gary Kwok. Richard Boak now up to 7th place overall. He is currently 5th in class. So the 84 started scratching the field, lucky to not go a lap down, and he has been a man of the move. He was supposed to start 5th. So the timing and scoring shows him down 2 positions. In reality, he has made up a ton.
Absolutely, going from the back to the front. Jack Polito once again setting the pace right now, 1:23.6. Well, I say that Dean Baker immediately knocks that one off with his own fastest lap of the race and severely closes the gap back into Justin DiBenedetto. It was over second, still is, but he knocked a good 7/10 out of the lead that time. So let's see if he can keep up that pace and chase down the number 4.
Baker has his sleeves rolled up, and he's still got lots of time to make it happen. He's got clear track between himself and the 4 of Justin DiBenedetto, but they will be catching the TCA class cars very shortly, the leaders, and once they do, that's when it sort of tends to happen at the front of the field. Jack Polito has a comfortable cushion by about 4.5 seconds over this battle for the race lead in the TCR class, but Justin DiBenedetto falling back into the clutches of the 52 of Dean Baker. It looks like that blue and silver Baker car is in fact the quickest car on the track for a second straight lap.
He is really coming as the cameras just change over right here. There's the number 2 of Trevor Hill. He leads in the TCA category right now. There is number 25 Honda of Eric Kuntz sitting in second right now. There's about 3 seconds in between those two. Of course, as we saw, we've lost Jonathan Young. I still think his car is actually sitting in that opening there in the front straightaway. So unfortunate end for him, because he put up a great fight with these two in the earlier race, but right now, unfortunately, sitting on the sidelines and out of the race. But for Trevor Hill, as you said, has been absolutely on it this year, leads the championship in this category and leading the race by a decent margin right now. Can he continue that up? As again, Dean Baker sets another fastest lap of the race and now puts the gap down to just over 4/10 of a second. You can see it visually closing in more and more to Justin DiBenedetto.
A little wiggle from the 4 of Justin DiBenedetto, but it brings you back to that smoke we saw on the warm-up lap. Is that something that we don't know about that's happening underneath the hood of that Audi RS3 TCR car? Or is it maybe just Justin DiBenedetto doesn't really have the setup that he wants? You see a little wiggle from the car at times, and Dean Baker again closes the gap. I think there's something amiss mechanically with the 4 car, as Baker's able to just gobble up real estate down the Andretti straightaway, and he'll do it again as he's tucked in that draft to the 4. So looking at turn number 8, we'll watch to see if the 52, he looks to the outside, does Dean Baker, so potentially setting something up here for turn number 9 and turn 10.
Just looks like he has a lot more top end speed coming through there, absolutely eating up the number 4 coming through there. It looks like through the corners they're pretty even. If anything, DiBenedetto may have the edge over him right now, but Baker's really got that thing hooked up, and like you said, is everything still mechanically good in the number 4 car right now? So far so good. He's able to hold the lead. His lap times really haven't dipped down too much. He's still running within a second of what he normally runs by, so it looks like everything's still going according to plan. But right now, Dean Baker able to really get this thing hooked up as Jack Polito goes through on Eric Kuntz. Again, 2 different categories right now, and number 22 Ford Mustang just setting the pace very, very fast right now.
Yeah, and that's no surprise there. It's about 300 horsepower between those 2 styles of cars. The GT4 with the horsepower advantage over the TCA class. But again, affordability is the incentive in the TCA class, and it's a new step that FEL Motorsports took in introducing the TCA group. Gives the drivers another stepping stone to get involved in sports car racing out of the karting ranks. So you're racing karts, you're wondering, where am I going to go next? I can't afford a TCR class car. Maybe I can get into TCA and run with the FEL Motorsports group, and that's exactly what they've done, and it's shown great interest, as a matter of fact. We've had growing fields throughout the season in the TCA class. We've seen some Hyundai Velosters, Honda Civics join the pack. Hyundai Veloster prepared at the Brian Herta Autosport, which was really cool to see at the Honda Indy Toronto, at the hands of James Vance, who swept that weekend in the TCA class. As a matter of fact, as now Baker takes a look on the inside, turn number 1. Again, the TCR class cars have caught your leader in TCA, and Justin DiBenedetto has to squeeze over the 52 to get around the TCA class car of Hill, who was well to the outside. He was minding his own business, but DiBenedetto just caught him at the wrong spot. Dean Baker was taking a look, but had to back out of that. We can give you an update. Boak is now up to 6th as he continues to turn his quickest laps of the race. As a matter of fact, just off a 1:23.27, the quickest lap overall set by Dean Baker, a 1:23.220. Jack Polito at a 1:23.6 is his quickest in the GT4 Ford Mustang. So obviously he doesn't need to push it. He's got a gap of almost 6 seconds over this battle for the lead in the TCR class.
Let's see if Dean Baker can make it happen this time. This is where he's been very strong right here with the power and a lot of slipstream now as our camera cuts over underneath the Chevrolet bridge. Got a few cars coming through here. That's Ed Killeen coming under, and I believe that's Quinnitrell, yes, in the 86, right behind him. Coming through.
Battle for 9th and 10th on the track. Killeen in the 37, Quinnitrell in that Hyundai Veloster number 86. So Trell is currently in 10th, but he's close enough to be within striking distance. You see Olivier Montour in the 45, not too much farther behind in that Volkswagen Golf. But it looks like the Audi just has a little bit more poke down the straightaway than the Hyundai Veloster of Quinnitrell, but he's having a pretty good run. So Quinnitrell is up 3 spots from his original starting spot at the beginning of this race, sitting in a top 10 position. So it's a good run for the youngster out of the Trell camp.
Just behind them, number 45 of Olivier Montour, as we go back to the battle for the lead. Dean Baker again just chomping at the rear bumper of Justin Benedetto for the lead. Another bit of a lock up there going into turn 5 between these two. Ron Tomlinson a little bit further back, and then Richard Boak coming like a shark as the number 80 of Connor Trell comes down pit road. So not sure what's gone on there for him, but he was just in that, just not too far off of Olivier Montour, and now he brings the number 80 into the pits, so something to miss there as Baker goes back for the lead.
It was in 12th spot was Connor Trell, so a season to forget for the 80 team as they've had awful luck at nearly every stop. So they have a great finish, and then they have just horrible luck. So something amiss on that Hyundai Elantra N as Connor Trell finds pit lane. But again, this battle at the front in the TCR class continues to be oh so tight. We'll see the two as they cross the stripe. What the distance? It was 0.3 of a second, now 0.4 of a second. So Justin Di Benedetto has stretched just a little bit. His lap 0.2 of a second quicker than the 52 of Dean Baker, but Baker has been working to try and find a different line. He needs to put together a run to try and complete a pass. He appears to be quicker than the 4, but catching is one thing, passing is another thing, as the saying goes in racing.
Oh, it totally is now. Again, another bit of a lock up there from Di Benedetto, absolutely driving the wheels off this car right now as they catch up to the number 26 of Khalid Adu, and now going under the hood of the number 80 of Connor Trell. So yeah, something definitely mechanical going on there in that number 80 Quaker State machine. Not good signs there at all.
Working through lap traffic, the 2 race leaders in the TCR class. Again, this is about 7 seconds off your overall race leader, Jack Polito, in the 22, who's out in front and just sort of hitting cruise control at this point. He knows he doesn't really have to push, but who is pushing? The 52 of Dean Baker looking to the outside. Turn number 8, they're side by side for the race lead in the TCR. And again, that top end speed from the 52 of Dean Baker comes to his benefit as he motors into the lead. Just a straight up power move in turn number 8 around the outside of Justin Di Benedetto.
That was, wow, that was something else. Able to make the outside work beautifully right there. Just able to squeeze ahead of Benedetto, who I think had to jump on the brakes and avoid him. You saw him get real twitchy right after Baker made that pass. So Baker up to the point, and just behind them come Ron Tomlinson and Richard Boak, routinely the fastest car on the track in TCR, and actually on the track in general right now, has just driven up from the back of the pack to about within 3.5 seconds of the race lead now. So he has really climbed up from the back now. But Dean Baker in clean air, let's see what he can do. Can he leave Justin Benedetto behind us? Here comes the 48 of Tomlinson and Richard Boak.
That's a battle for 3rd in TCR. So yeah, that's about 0.2 of a second the last time they crossed the stripe. Richard Boak, I'm not sure if he's taken a breath this entire race, as he has been on it right from the drop of the 2nd green. Remember, we had that full course caution off the initial green, and Boak joined from pit lane at that point. So because there was a caution, he did not go a lap down. He was at the back of the pack to start. Manages to chip his way through the field and is now battling for a podium position as the driver, the number 84, the Vets Pools Audi, looks over the back of Tomlinson in turn number 8. So Tomlinson a little too tough there, but we'll see what happens as they take 2 completely different lines through turn 9 and turn 10 as the number 80 of Connor Trell and the Hyundai Elantra N moves to the paddock area, so his day is done early.
That's unfortunate to see for him. Was having a decent run just inside the top 10, or just outside the top 10, battling it out with Montour. And unfortunately, that's come to an end early for him. So it's never good to see with the Atrels. As you said, they've had some horrible luck this year.
We talked about Justin DiBenedetto. We thought he was off the pace a little bit. He just went and turned his quickest lap as Boak locks up in turn number 3. He thought about making a move for third spot on Ron Tomlinson as the clock continues to tick. So we're coming up on 25 minutes complete in this 40-minute timed race for the FEL Sports Car Championship Canada presented by Michelin. But this is a battle for the final step on the Brayton Motorsports podium. And right now, Ron Tomlinson wants to make it 2 podiums in a row, but Richard Boak, who won race number 1, has got different ideas. He wants to get up there one more spot at the very least, but Boak has been quick. And we talked about Justin DiBenedetto and thought that he might be dropping off a little bit. He just turned his quickest lap of the race.
Not losing anything right now, sticking right with Baker as Boak gets underneath the 48 of Tomlinson. They touch a little bit right there. Both power moves around the inside and the outside of Tomlinson. Wow, that was such a late move going into the corner. If anything, Tomlinson left the door open, and Boak took absolute full advantage of it as they now come up on the 38 of Megan Tomlinson, running in the TCA class. But Boak just, whoa, not messing around at all, flirting with the edge of the racetrack, trying to go anywhere he can.
Right to that runoff in turn number 1 to get around the 38 of Megan Tomlinson, who in the TCA class cars, obviously down on horsepower compared to these TCR class cars, but she's the daughter of Ron Tomlinson, who's in that battle. But quite smartly, it checked her mirrors and got out of the way fairly quickly as Boak and Ron Tomlinson were coming through quite promptly. Now you can see the gap between the top 2. So Dean Baker still has Justin DiBenedetto behind him. It's about 0.8 of a second, that difference. But then you look back to Richard Boak, it's 4.2 seconds. So Boak needs either a miracle to catch them or a caution at this point, but he has to really get going if he wants to try and make up any further ground at this point, sitting in 3rd and not too far behind that 48 of Ron Tomlinson as we see the battle between Gary Kwok and Tom Kwok. So this is for 7th and 8th overall. The 66 has it, and Tom Kwok wants it. But interesting to see the 2 different generations of Honda Civics here in the TCR class.
Yeah, let's see which one makes a difference here as Tom Kwok tries to get the run. Very similar in top speed, even though the draft being given to Tom Kwok right now, but not able to get there. Obviously keeping right up with Gary Kwok and able to stay right with him. They both got past Khalid Edu there, so they continue on their way in 7th and 8th.
And we talked about the work that Gary Kwok had to do to put that number 66 back together after an incident at the Honda Indy Toronto. Tom Kwok had a similar incident at the Grand Prix de 20 Mirrors. As a matter of fact, couldn't start the final race of the weekend after backing into the concrete wall. And it looks like that car, too, has been put back together very, very well and quickly, as the 55 is going very well here today. As we watch your overall race leader, Jack Polito, putting a lap on the 3 of Vince Partap. And so the Ford Mustang of Polito now about 6.2 seconds up on the 52 of Dean Baker, as Polito has started to go just a little bit quicker, pushing towards the end of this race with just over 10 minutes left to go.
They're running very similar lap times, though, between Polito, Baker, and DiBenedetto right now, so not much difference between them. Benedetto last lap around again set his own personal best lap of the race, but Baker was just that little bit quicker, and I'm starting to see that gap get bigger and bigger as again he outdoes him by 0.2 now, even though DiBenedetto ran his personal best lap again. And as you look, though, Richard Boak fastest out of the top 4, but he's going to need more than 1/10 of a second to close that gap in.
Now Tomlinson just turned his quickest lap of the race in the 48, sitting in 4th in the TCR class. We're getting an update from Todd Lewis in the pits. So transmissions for the 80 of Connor Atrell. So that has taken him out of this race, and it was issues with getting the gear, or getting the car in gear at the start for Richard Boak, and that's why he didn't take the initial start. So they had trouble getting that car in gear. It finally did go, and it seems as though it has worked just fine for this entire race. So whatever it was, once they got it in gear, it fixed itself. Sometimes they do that.
Yeah, sometimes it just does it for you, and right now it's obviously not hampering him anyway. He's been just absolutely charging like crazy throughout this entire race, up into P3 in TCR and 4th overall. So great to see for the number 84, Richard Boak, right now. Just completely making headway. This might be as far as he's going to get, but I don't know. We still got over 10 minutes to go, so we'll see how much longer he has to maybe make something else happen here.
Di Benedetto still within about a second of your leader in the TCR class as Jack Polito clicks off another lap. 4.5 seconds up on Dean Baker. Justin Di Benedetto 1.3 seconds back as some of the other drivers come through lap traffic. That's Richard Boak. He navigates both a TCA class car and one of the GT4 class cars. That's Richard Boak. Eric Kuntz driving in the Honda Civic in the TCA, and now Ron Tomlinson will do the same again. Tomlinson dropping back just a little bit, about a second adrift of the 84 of Richard Boak. Boak has 4 wins on the season if you want to include the one from earlier today. 3 wins coming at the Honda Indy Toronto earlier on. The king of the streets of Toronto was the driver of the 84. He finished second here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park earlier this season. Also a second at the Grand Prix de Trois-Rivières. And unfortunately, they had issues in the last race of that Grand Prix in Trois-Rivières. So that's what really knocked him down in the points. Unfortunately, mechanical issues took the 84 out of the championship. But Dean Baker, who has been steady Eddie all season, essentially, he's been one of those drivers. He's got a couple wins, both coming here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Finished second in race number 1. In all, he's had 3 second-place finishes. Now 4, but 3 of them coming at the Honda Indy Toronto, and podium positions at the Grand Prix de Trois-Rivières, and as well 1 here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park earlier this season, in addition to those wins to start off 2023. But that's been the season for the driver of the 52. It's been just very good. If he hasn't been on the top step of the podium, he's been near it, and he's been very consistently quick and limited the mechanical issues as well, and that's the key to a championship season, and it looks like driver of the 52 is well on his way to that.
That's what wins you championships right there, as the consistency keeps up more and more. That's what can win you a title. Even though you could be the fastest man here with multiple victories, if you don't keep up the consistency with it, it will not add up and it will not work out for you. So he's done absolutely everything he needs to do so far. Good
look at Demi Chakas in the number 34. Second in the GT4 class here right now. And Demi Chakas second in race number 1. Now 4 second-place finishes in 2023, all coming here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. So a driver who you'll probably see her trailer as you turn in to come to this facility. Demi Chakas has cut her touring car teeth here on this track, so she's very comfortable here. She knows this place very, very well, and it's a great place to really come and push herself behind the wheel of that Mercedes AMG GT4. And she's had some really great runs. Sat on the pole at the Honda Indy Toronto, the Assured Auto Group pole in the FEL Sports Car Championship Canada, presented by Michelin. Unfortunately, again, it was one of those races where it didn't fully go her way, but she did have a couple podiums in that session of races over that weekend. And once again, here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, looking to step the second step of the podium. See driver the number 34. 6th overall right now, but second in class in the GT4 is Demi Chakas, chasing the 22 of Jack Polito. Your overall leader has a 4.7 second gap on the field.
Yeah, just behind him, you can see Dean Baker. That gap is really not, they've actually started to close that down a little bit. It was over 6 seconds earlier on in the race. So obviously Baker and Di Benedetto with some great speed, able to hang with Polito right now. Obviously that's, you know, you always want those bit of bragging rights for the overall win, as we see the top 4 come by. Ron Tomlinson coming by there underneath the Canadian Tire bridge. Yeah, all 4 of these cars have kind of remained very stable and very consistent lap times right with each other, so no one's really been clear out better than the other one. We know Baker's sort of gotten away from the rest of the field, but still great to see as we switch over to the number 2 of Trevor Harrell, still leading in the TCA category over Eric Kuntz by a fair amount.
Yeah, so you can see what Trevor Hill is doing there. He's watching his mirror, so he's going to take that sort of defensive line down the Andretti straightaway. He knows he doesn't have the most speed in that Honda Civic as it lifts the right rear through turn number 8. I love that angle of shot because you can see just how that chassis is working to try and transfer the weight. There's second place, Eric Kuntz making his way through turn number 8 right now. So that's the distance between first place and second place. But Eric Kuntz putting that Sanders Motorsports number 25 in yet another podium position. And again, you talk about Steady Eddie and a great season so far. Eric Kuntz coming into this one with 2 wins, both coming at the Grand Prix de Trois-Rivières, and a couple second place finishes in 2023 as well. So the driver of the number 23 getting involved, and now that battle a little bit deeper in the field in the TCR class. Again, this is for 9th and 10th, but take nothing away from it because Quinnitrell really wants a piece of Ed Killeen right now.
He is. He's been right there just trying to find anywhere. Look at the corner speed right there from Quinnitrell. Gonna see maybe, nope, not close enough to Ed Killeen coming down. Killeen a bit defensive. Trell just figures I'm gonna maybe go around the outside, flirting with the edge of the track, and he's able to pull the move off. Wow, around the outside of turn 2. That's normally not an area where you see that move. It's a blind corner with it banking downwards, but Quinnitrell said, no, I'm not afraid. I'm just gonna take the outside regardless.
Yeah, Quinnitrell had been following that 37 of Ed Killeen for a couple of laps, so likely saw that he was better than the 37 in turn number 2, and that's where he decided to make his move. Went way to the outside, actually caught the green paint on the outside of turn number 2, but kept the power on in the Hyundai Veloster, and the number 86 moves up to 9th overall, ahead of the 37 of Ed Killeen. So they're quite a bit ways behind Gary Kwok in this 66, but it's a battle in amongst themselves, and that's what's beautiful about this FEL Sports Car Championship Canada presented by Michelin is you're never out of it. You're never sort of all by yourself. You always have somebody to battle with, because if it's not somebody in class, it's somebody for the overall position.
Absolutely, he's been really on it as Killeen starts to fall a little bit further back behind him now. He's got a significant gap. There's another 15 seconds back to Oliver Montour in the 45. So as Jack Polito comes through, time's starting to run out in this race. Just under 4 minutes to go of the 40-minute time limit coming by here. Polito once again showing everybody up, but it's not nearly as dominant as it was last time out. Now, part of that can be because of the caution flag that came out and it bunched everybody back up, and the fact that he's running virtually identical lap times with Dean Baker right now.
Well, Richard Boak just nearly cut about a second into the lead of Justin DiBenedetto, so about a second quicker that last lap for the driver of the 84, but still in 3rd in TCR. So Dean Baker leads the TCR class, followed by Justin DiBenedetto and Richard Boak, but I'm not going to say it's getting tighter because the clock continues to tick down and there's not much time left as the 2 Kwoks, Tom and Gary Kwok, have swapped positions again. The 55 was just ahead of the 66. Now Gary Kwok lays down his quickest lap so far of this race, a 1:24.6, and he pushes his car back up into the top 5 in the TCR class.
Great to see. I guess they figured they're a little bit far back behind another car or whatever, kind of just on their own. Figured let's try to work together and run some decent laps here and see what times we can turn, because that will help you out. Remember, it's set by the fastest times, I believe, for qualifying, as Jack Polito had to check up big time there for the 37. I think Ed Killeen's got an issue. He severely dropped off the pace as he pulls into the pit lane there, because Trell was able to make that pass almost too easy. Yeah. And now you can see Killeen pulls into the pit, so obviously something's not right in the 37.
Yeah, just ahead of the leader. As a matter of fact, as Jack Polito was making that move, Ed Killeen was thinking he wanted to go to pit lane. He did get there as the 22 cleared him, but just barely. As Ron Tomlinson clicks off his quickest lap of the race, 2.4 seconds now the distance between Justin DiBenedetto and Richard Boak. Still a couple more laps to go in this one, but that's a pretty steep mountain to climb if you want to gobble up that real estate, as you see a good look at the number 4 of Justin DiBenedetto, who is sitting second. And there you can see the flash of the white and red Audi backed by FAF of Richard Boak. So it's if you look at it on the time charts, then it looks a lot closer than it actually is on the racetrack, as Boak has got quite a distance to try and make up.
As you can see, Jack Polito's still just ahead of them. They've actually made up, even though I think that was from him getting held up a little bit right there on that last lap. They made up a lot of time. It's down to almost 3 seconds there where Polito is. But right now, he's just been more consistently faster than the rest of the field right now. De Benedetto trying to make his way up, but I'll tell you what, Boak has made up quite a bit of ground. Although Polito's not careful now, he's got a lot of lap traffic to deal with. He might lose the overall lead entering the final minute of the race as the white flag drops. One last lap to go here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Jack Polito on his way to yet another victory.
You know, I said Boak would need a really cracker of a lap to make up any ground, and he just got it. He made up almost a full second on Justin Di Benedetto. So now the gap between second and third, 1.4 seconds as we go into the final time around. Final 10 turns here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. So it's still Dean Baker in the 52 through turn number 3 as he navigates the slower traffic ahead. Justin Di Benedetto is quite a bit behind, about 2.5 seconds back of the 52 the last time they crossed the stripe. So there's your leader. There's a flash of Justin Di Benedetto in second. Actually, he looks like he might be catching your race leader, so we may have a dice for the top spot in the TCR class yet.
I think it was right there. Baker got held up right there by Kuntz, and I think Vince Partap there coming through the corners, long sweeping corners of turns 2 and 3, and De Benedetto was able to close up, as is Richard Boak. But this is the last time down the straightaway, and I think they're going to run out of time. As long as Baker just keeps it on the island, he should be good for the win here. Meanwhile, coming around the final couple of corners, number 22 at Jack Polito just going to try and get through on Trevor Hill, and this will be the win for Trevor Hill as well. All 3 of our winners going to end up on the same straightaway here. Jack Polito
off of turn number 10 for the final time. Checkered flag in the air. The win will go to the 22 of Jack Polito in the GT4 class. TCR goes to Dean Baker, as the 2 of Trevor Hill will win in the TCA class as well. But 1.2 seconds the gap between Dean Baker and Justin Di Benedetto at the end. Another 1.1 seconds back to Richard Boak. But man, did that gap ever close in the last 2 laps of this race in the TCR class. Look at this final battle between the Quacks, Gary and Tom Quack. So Tom Quack has it in the red and white Honda Civic. Gary wants it in the number 66, the green and white Honda Civic. Off of turn number 10, little wiggle for Gary Quack, and that's going to cost him that run off of turn number 10. So hand the position to Tom Quack, 7th overall, and that is 5th in class in the TCR class, as Gary will come home 8th and 6th in class. But you can see celebrations have started for the Polito Ford Racing number 22 of Jack Polito. Another dominant run here in the GT4 class as he continues his perfect streak here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park behind the wheel of that GT4 Ford Mustang.